Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and we've got another great Dynasty video for you guys. We've got your wide receiver rankings. This is going to be 24 receivers, because most people probably are in a 12-man league. I want to make sure we put the top 24 receivers that I believe are going to be your Dynasty players you should be having on your rosters. We'll be counting down from 24 down to our number one guy. If you have not, make sure you check out our quarterbacks and running back Dynasty rankings as well. Again, we are into July, which means soon enough, August and September will be here, which means fantasy football will finally go live. We are super excited for that. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button. We greatly appreciate it. So let's jump right into this. So if you guys look, number 24, I've got Chris Godwin. Okay, you actually got two wide receivers from the Buccaneers. Obviously, you'll see on the list here, but I've got Chris Godwin at number 24. A lot of it has to do with the fact, dynasty-wise, I'm worried with Tom Brady, right? With the fact that Tom Brady obviously did sign back for one more year. After that, no one knows what's going to happen. So the fact that Chris Godwin is obviously a very good wide receiver, he is playing, hopefully, most of the season. He's coming back from an injury, obviously, but I still like him. He's got the youth. He's got some great play behind him. Again, the reason why I don't have him a little bit higher, where I do have Mike Evans, and we'll talk about that, it's just I'm worried about Tom Brady obviously being gone after this year and what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to do at quarterback. Now, number 23, obviously, I've got two rookies on here. This is the unknown, right? Drake London is in a good position as far as being the wide receiver one. He's got a lot of great talent coming into this NFL season, coming from, look, the USC, he was a great receiver and prospect there. He's got size, which is going to be awesome for him. And I think that's going to help him opposite Bryan Edwards. And you got Kyle Pitts. These are going to be towers out there trying to catch the ball. Now, right now, Marcus Mariota is expected to be the quarterback. Obviously, the Atlanta Falcons did draft Desmond Ridder, who could potentially be the future, who I think is going to be like a Dak Prescott-like player, where he's going to have a good arm, some mobility, he can run. I like what Desmond Ridder can bring. Again, that's more future. That's why I have Drake London a little bit higher on here. Another guy I have is Terry McLaurin, and thank you, McLaurin. I hate to say it as obviously a Cowboy fan. I don't like McLaurin being in the NFC East, but as a fan of McLaurin myself, I'm glad he got paid. We can move this beyond. He is one of those guys that a lot of people don't believe is a top 24 wide receiver in the league. Every single year in fantasy, he's in the top 20. If not top 25, depending on how your format is. He's always consistent, and that is with horrible quarterback play. Sorry, Heineke, but it's true. Now, Wentz, we'll see how that performs. Wentz, I think, is more talented than Heineke. I think Heineke should have still been the quarterback this season for the Washington Commanders, but I do like McLaurin a lot. I don't think he gets a lot of credit. I've got Garrett Wilson, who's my highest ranked rookie wide receiver. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. I have him as my number one rookie that was going into the draft this year. Anyways, I'm not crazy about the situation he got where he's going to go to the New York Jets. A lot of it is just because he's very similar to Elijah Moore, and I'm not in love with Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson's got a lot of weapons. Obviously, you got Uzoma, you got Wilson, you got Moore, Carter, Breece Hall. You've got weapons. Corey Davis is still there. So this is all going to come down to Zach Wilson and how he performed, which is going to make me a little nervous. But I do have Gary Wilson almost cracking the top 20 just because, obviously, I love what he can bring to the table. I think he's going to be one of the best receivers in this rookie class, even though this is a very strong rookie class. I just think he has that ability. And again, situation-wise, had he had gone to a different team, say a Green Bay Packers or something like that, I would have probably put him a little bit higher. Got Jerry Jeudy here at number 20. A lot of people don't like Jerry Jeudy at this part, and I know this is going to be one of those things where I'll probably start seeing some comments about it. Jerry Jeudy has not been a top 20 fantasy wide receiver. A lot of it has to do with injuries. Obviously, quarterback play hasn't been great, but Courtland Sutton did perform pretty well with Drew Lock back there and a little bit of Bridgewater. I think this is Judy's year, and if not, then obviously the rankings will change, but I like the fact that they got Russell Wilson. I like Jerry Jeudy's talent. They don't use him very well, and I think this offense will be schemed properly because he is more of a slot receiver than anything else. I do like Jerry Jeudy a lot. His counterpart in DeVonta Smith over here from of his college days. I like DeVonta Smith a lot. I think a lot of it has to do, I think he still needs to bulk up a little bit for the Philadelphia Eagles. But now that you got opposite of A.J. Brown, I don't think that hurts him at all. I was very high on DeVonta Smith before A.J. Brown came into the picture. But with A.J. Brown opposite DeVonta Smith and you still have Dallas Goedert, I still think that's a win for DeVonta Smith. And I think it's a win for A.J. Brown. You got two good receivers on the outside. You don't know who to, I mean, we're talking a Heisman winning wide receiver, which is almost unheard of, right? Heisman winners aren't receivers. He's got that type of talent. He showed some of that last year. And the fact that Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to improve, not just as a obviously running quarterback, but as a passing quarterback, I do like what you're going to get out of DeVonta Smith. I've got Mike Evans at number 18. Mike Evans is probably one of my older receivers on this list because obviously being a dynasty, you do want some of that youth. But Mike Evans is hard to just ignore. He is just Mr. Consistent. He's one of the best 50-50 ball catchers out there in the league. He's a touchdown machine. And that was with Jameis Winston. That was with Tom Brady. That's why I have him higher than Chris Godwin. I think his talent definitely supersedes Chris Godwin's talent. He is, like I said, on the older side, so he's probably got 3 or 4 years left. So he's probably going to be more geared towards you dynasty players that are really in the win now stage than more so a rebuild. But I think you could still keep Mike Evans on your team, even if you aren't maybe winning this year or next year. I love what he can still bring, even if Tom Brady's gone after this year. You got Rashod Bateman. Rashod Bateman has definitely skyrocketed. And a lot of people would probably put Rashod Bateman down, but I like what he came into last year. I think with him now being the wide receiver one, since obviously Marquise Brown is gone, I think Lamar Jackson is going to absolutely just force feed Rashod. Bateman has the talent. He has the deep ball. I think he's got better hands. I think he has better eye coordination than Marquise Brown. He's not going to just lose the ball in the air. He can actually go up and get it. So I like Rashod Bateman a lot. I got Darnell Mooney. He is definitely slept on, absolutely, and I understand because as a Chicago Bear team, they're not known for really anything, right? You got obviously Justin Fields going into his second season. A lot of people are still unsure and worried about what he can do for the Bears, But I like Darnell Mooney. He had 140 plus receiving targets last year, which was, I think, 5th in the league. He is going to be force-fed. I know a lot of people like Velus Jones going into there. I do like Darnell Mooney. He's just absolutely a stud. You should absolutely try to go after him. He's definitely high on my rankings. Got number 15, Michael Pittman Jr. Pittman Jr. is going to finally have a really good quarterback. He did really well last year with the Wentz, which is why I still think McLaurin is obviously worth having. Michael Pittman is going to have Matt Ryan, who absolutely will force feed him. Matt Ryan will turn Calvin Ridley into a star, even though obviously we didn't get to play last year. I like what Pittman's going to do. And you got Pierce. Pierce came into this draft, who's going to help really offset because last year T.Y. Hilton was kind of non-existent. Paris Campbell can't stay healthy. They don't have great tight ends. Besides Jonathan Taylor, Pittman was the only option, and I still think that Pittman is still their best option, obviously outside of Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, they got Jelani Woods, who's a good rookie tight end. You got Pierce. That's really it. There's not a whole lot of weapons still. Obviously, we're hoping Paris Campbell can stay healthy, but I like Michael Pittman a lot. Number 14, I got Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson, I would actually have higher on this list. The only reason I don't have him quite high is just because obviously this is a contract year. Steelers typically don't pay out very high for receivers. So there's a lot of what is going to happen with Diontae next year. I still think he's going to be obviously force-fed, whether it was obviously Ben Roethlisberger who's no longer here. You got possibly Kenny Pickett. And, of course, you got our boy Mitchell Trubisky, who I think is going to get slept on this year. But I do like Diontae Johnson, opposite of obviously Claypool. Then, number 13, I got DJ Moore. Look, DJ Moore is absolutely disrespected in this game. He is not a top 10. He's close if you give him a quarterback, and he still doesn't have one, unfortunately. I know, obviously, Sam Darnold is, unfortunately, their best option, but that's where we're at. I like DJ Moore a lot. He gets heavily targeted. They don't really have crazy weapons. You got out on the outside. There's really nobody there to take away a lot. I mean, maybe a healthy McCaffrey if he's there. But I like DJ Moore a lot. He's still young. I think he's 25 right now, going into 26 this year. So he's not anywhere even quite at his peak. most receivers peak about 28, 29. So I think DJ Moore is definitely going to be one of those guys you should absolutely get. Now, here are my top 12 wide receivers. And obviously you can comment if you agree, disagree, change some things, all that. I'll give you some reasons why I believe these guys are your top 12. Now, number 12, I got Deebo Samuel. Look, Deebo Samuel, I don't have him higher. I know he performed really well, but look, he's going to do less, I guess you would say, Swiss Army, true athletic stuff that he did really well at last year, that, a la Cordell Patterson. I think Deebo Samuel is still dealing with the fact that he's still interested in getting traded. That puts a question mark on what's going to happen with him. Where does he go? Who's his quarterback? Because right now, Trey Lance actually looks really good. He's going to have some great potential, a lot of upside. Jimmy G obviously still did pretty well, even at being a non-top tier quarterback. So Deebo Samuel still, I think, need to be in this top 12 list. I think he's still one of the best athletes out there. He obviously had some early injuries in the beginning of his career. And again, they didn't know what to do with him. And I think if he does open up his mind and say, look, you know what? I can't help the team, whether I do it through rushing or receiving. I think that will obviously add more value. Number 11, I've got Tyreek Hill, which is going to kind of shock you when I talk about his brethren over there and Jaylen Waddle, but I have Tyreek Hill at number 11. A lot of it has to do with age. All right. And I think him and Waddle have the very similar skill set. They are definitely deep pass type of receivers, all about speed, quick, give me the ball within 5 yards, and I'm going to score, right? And a lot of question marks, obviously, still with Tua. But if like anything else, I do believe Tua can do all right. And he doesn't need to pass the ball 50 plus yards down the field. He just needs to get the ball to them, and he is pretty accurate. Not saying he's better than Patrick Mahomes, like Tyreek says, but he is very accurate. I think Tyreek has a lot to prove, which is why I don't have him up, obviously, higher. But Tyreek is going to do that. I think Tyreek really wants to show I don't need Patrick Mahomes to be myself and be the cheetah on the field. And I like the fact that he's opposite of Jaylen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, who are some great weapons. So it's not like he's going to a team that he is the only guy, right? So I like him there. Number 10, Devonte Adams. Again, another guy who's up there in age, like Mike Evans. Devonte Adams going in a new situation with obviously the Las Vegas Raiders, and he's going to be with his college quarterback in Derek Carr. He's down because he's going from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. Other than that, there's no reason not to have him in the top 10. He's still going to be a top 10 fantasy quarterback or wide receiver. Derek Carr is a good quarterback who's going to get him the ball. I think that rapport has already been there, so I'm not too concerned with that. Then you got Hunter Renfrow, who did really well last year. You got Darren Waller. So not only was a situation where it was just Davante Adams in Green Bay, and that was really his best weapon, to now where he's in a situation where he's not the only weapon that obviously Derek Carr can face. So I like Davante Adams a lot. Number 9, I've got Stefon Diggs here. I have him squeaked up just because I think quarterback-wise, you got Josh Allen, who's probably one of the best quarterbacks in this league. Stefon Diggs, obviously, again, a little bit of an older receiver, but I still think he's a top 10 wide receiver. Again, he's a receiver you're going to have on your team if you're in a win-now mode in the next 2 to 3 years. You're not rebuilding with a Stefon Diggs on your roster, but I like him in this just because, again, his talent supersedes, and then, of course, you've got one of the best quarterbacks out there, and I love what you're going to have on the opposite of Gabriel Davis. So I like Stefon Diggs. Number 8, DK Metcalf. It's all about talent. Obviously, right now, currently at the quarterback position, you got Locke, you got Geno Smith. There's a lot of uncertainty there, and I think realistically the Seahawks are probably going to, I wouldn't say intentionally do poor this year. They're just obviously going to do poor this year to get a good quarterback, obviously, in the draft for next year, which is where realistically one of the better quarterback drafts are going to be as far as rookies. But with Metcalf being there, I still think he's going to be one of the more talented receivers in this league. He's got that type of big play capability. He's still opposite of Tyler Lockett, who will obviously help, again, where not everybody's going to lock in on him. Again, the quarterback position is going to be the biggest reason why Metcalf isn't higher on this list. I do believe he can be, but not quite yet. Got number 7 at T. Higgins. Look, T. Higgins is going to be one of those guys who I think even if he didn't have Chase on the outside, I still thought he was going to be one of our better wide receivers into this league at such a young age. And you got Joe Burrow, who did really well the last half of this season. Again, a lot of people forget that Joe Burrow wasn't one of the best quarterbacks in last season, but towards the end of the season, he turned into one of the top 5 quarterbacks in fantasy and in real life. that shows. You've got great rapport with T. Higgins. You've got obviously Jamar Chase. You still got Tyler Boyd. That's just one scary offense and probably one of the best wide receiver like tandems, trios in the league, if not number one. If you look at it, they are up there. So I like T. Higgins a lot. A lot of it has to do with his youth, the opposite side of Chase, and you got Burrow. This is going to be a solid receiver for the next 5 to 6 years. Number 6, I have CeeDee Lamb. Some people have him a little bit higher. I almost put him a little bit lower. Look, CeeDee Lamb has not been realistically a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy and since he's been in the league. A lot of it has to do with the fact that he was opposite of Amari Cooper, who had a great rapport with Dak Prescott. And that offense, realistically, Dak throws to whoever is open. He doesn't force feed necessarily. Now, this year might change a little bit just because realistically, Gallup being out for the first few to a month or so games due to injury. So you've got CeeDee Lamb, no Amari Cooper. You do have Schultz, who did really well. Pollard's going to take some receptions. And Tolbert, right? The rookie. There's just not a lot. So I think CeeDee Lamb is going to get force fed quite a bit this year. I think he's going to actually surpass that 90+ catch aspect. And I think he's going to get fed 120 to 130 targets in this, and this is going to be a big deal. Now, this is going to be a year that has to happen because otherwise, I think CeeDee Lamb realistically will drop in this ranking. He's in that prime spot. He is the number one guy. That's what Jerry Jones has pretty much said. So right now he's at number 6. Would not be shocked if he unfortunately goes down. Number 5, got Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp normally would be a number 1 if this was, say, possibly redraft, right? But being that it's Dynasty, Cooper Kupp is not better than the top 4 that I'm going to mention. A lot of it has to do with age. A lot of it has to do with the age of his quarterback and Matthew Stafford, because obviously Matthew Stafford's probably got 2 to 3 years maybe left. We'll see how things go. Obviously, if they win another championship, I think he does retire. But Cooper Kupp is still one of the best wide receivers in this game. He put on a clinic last season. I think him and Matthew Stafford is the perfect pair. And you gain Allen Robinson. And I do think Robinson's a little bit better than Robert Woods. But you get Allen Robinson, who's going to be opposite of Cooper Kupp, who's going to only, again, help allow where there, and he's not going to be the sole receiver that they're focusing on. He's going to get a lot of it, but he's not going to be the only one. Number 4, I've got A.J. Brown. Look, A.J. Brown, I know this is not the situation that I think a lot of people wish he was, but I like him with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback that I think is more athletic, can get the ball. I think he's very comparable to what Tannehill was when Tannehill first came in the league with the Miami Dolphins. Little raw. Again, people forget Tannehill was a wide receiver who converted to quarterback. Obviously, Hurts was not, but Hurts does have a lot of similarities in that athleticism. But I like A.J. Brown. They both kind of secretly been all about this before the trade happened. And again, A.J. Brown being opposite of DeVonta Smith is a win-win, I think, in everybody's aspect. And then, of course, you got down the seams, you got Dallas Goedert. So A.J. Brown is not going to be the only weapon for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's going to, I think, increase him. And again, being young, and I think he's in a good position, good team. And I do think, unfortunately, Jalen Hurts will be the quarterback for the Eagles for a pretty long time. So I do like A.J. Brown. Number 3, I got Jaylen Waddle just because of what his talent can be. And I think him and Tua just have a great relationship. And now you add Tyreek Hill on the outside of that. Man, that just truly opens up what Jaylen Waddle can do. Again, both speedsters, both can obviously score at any point when you get the ball. And I think he's got a great talent. The only reason I have him above Tyreek Hill, for example, is the rapport and, of course, the age. That plays a factor in Dynasty. Number 2, I've got Jamar Chase. This is not a shock to anyone. Well, okay, maybe it's a shock to some of you guys. But I got Jamar Chase at number 2 just because I think, realistically, with all the weapons that the Cincinnati Bengals have, he's not going to get the ball targeted as much as our number 1 guy. I like Chase a lot, and he's definitely going to be the number 2 receiver. Could possibly be number 1, depending on what happens, just because of quarterback play. I think Joe Burrow is going to be a big factor in that. But number 1, I've got Justin Jefferson. Obviously, age. He gets targeted because Thielen can't stay healthy. You got Kirk Cousins, who is a absolutely passing quarterback who does really well in fantasy. I know you guys hate to hear it, but he does. Justin Jefferson is number 1. There's not much for me to say in this point. Like, I think if they were to add a number 2 receiver, not just obviously Thielen, but like a really solid, amazing number 2, like a T. Higgins that obviously Chase is getting, then, Chase and Jefferson could go back and forth. But in my eyes, Justin Jefferson being really the weapon for the Minnesota Vikings puts him at number 1, and his talent is just phenomenal. I love what these young receivers, if you look at the top 4 or 5 on this rank, they're all very young and they've got potential and they're good offenses. So again, this is my list from 1 to 24 as far as wide receivers go. This is an ever-changing list. This can possibly change at any point, but this is where I'm at right now with these wide receivers going into this NFL season and, of course, the future. If you guys did enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button. Of course, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe and that notification bell is on. That way you guys are notified every time we drop a video. And if not, check out our running back and quarterback ranking videos as well. We want to make sure you guys are prepared, especially if you're doing any startup leagues. Or you just kind of maybe want to make some trades, make sure you check those videos out as well. Again, stay tuned. We'll be doing obviously more videos. You got your tight ends. We're going to be doing redraft videos and, of course, mock videos before the season starts. So, again, thank you guys so much for watching this content, and we'll see you guys next time.